We should never allow ourselves to develop patterns of minimizing or denying our sin. Because any moment you minimize your sin, you are then devaluing God's grace. When you think of confessing your sin, what images come to mind? I think that most of us kind of hate confession. We dislike admitting that we are wrong. And sometimes we defend ourselves even when we know we're wrong. And often we work to erect self-atoning arguments that make our sin acceptable to us. The guy at the mall will say that he's not lusting, he's just a man who enjoys beauty. The gossip will say, I wasn't gossiping, I was just giving a prayer request. And the parent who screams at their child says that was not sinful anger, I was just being like one of God's prophets. Thus says the Lord. We try to do everything we can to confess. But what Psalm 32, which is about the blessing of confession and forgiveness, says to us is that confession is a blessing. Let me read. Blessed is the one whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered. Blessed is the man against whom the Lord counts no iniquity, and whose spirit there is no deceit. For when I kept silent, my bones wasted away through my groaning all day long. For day and night your hand was heavy on me. My strength was dried up as by the heat of summer. I acknowledged my sin to you, and I did not cover my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave me the iniquity of my sin. Here's what you need to understand, that it is very clear in the Old Testament and the New Testament as that God has provided a way for sin to be confessed and forgiveness to be granted. Confession of sin isn't a prelude to judgment. Let me say that again. Confession of sin isn't a prelude to judgment. Confession of sin is a way to enter into the grace of God's forgiveness. We should never allow ourselves to develop patterns of minimizing or denying our sin. Because any moment you minimize your sin, you are then devaluing God's grace. We should never get used to shifting the blame for our sin to someone else. We should never allow ourselves to be more concerned about the sin of others than we are our own. I think a lot of us are real good at confessing other people's sins, but not too committed to doing that ourselves. We should always be willing to admit that our greatest problem in life exists inside of us and not outside of us. And the Bible names that sin. I am my biggest problem. And why do I confess? Because I need help. Because I can run from a situation, I can run from a relationship, but I can't run from me. I find when I try to run from me, I always show up with me at the end of the run. It doesn't work. And so I need to be rescued from me. I need rescuing, forgiving, transforming, empowering grace. And I enter into that grace by confession. Confession is an admission that I need divine help. Listen, there's a big contrast in this psalm between the moment when the writer of the psalm is silent, refusing to confess, and the beauty of the moment when he confesses his sin. The silence of denial never goes anywhere good. Making yourself feel good about what God says is not good never produces good things in your life. But you have a God of grace who says, you come to me and you speak truth, and I will forgive and I will bless.